Welcome to the Shower Epiphanies podcast, where we explore your hidden thoughts and desires, revealing your greatest drop the mic moments. Now, here's your host, Art Costello.
Welcome to the Shower Epiphanies podcast. Joining us today on an all-new edition of Shower Epiphanies is Jaina Thatch. Jaina is a physical therapist, inspirational speaker, and the author of a new children's book, My Superhero Mind, which was inspired by the birth of her superhero daughter, Isla? Isla, okay. She's helping to instill values of self-love, inner confidence, true beauty, and authenticity in young women across the country, reminding them that by using their powerful minds, they can be anything they want to be. Her greatest desire is to continue instilling this important message in girls at a young age to assist in building a strong foundation for women of our future. Currently lives in Tampa, Florida with her family and their puppy, Frosty. Welcome to the show. We finally got this out.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
Yeah. Well, it'll continue to be a blast. For those of you who don't know, I'm kind of having a technical difficulty today getting words out of my mouth, so we'll do the best we can. Can you tell us your story, how you got started in all this, and what life was like for you growing up and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah. So, I always loved to write. As a child, writing, I grew up in a very large Italian family. So, it was hard always to get a voice in. And so I used to turn to writing as a way to express myself and not always having to share my thoughts with everyone. But when I was ready to, I would, share them. But it was a great way for me to express myself in a very large family with a lot of very large personalities. And I was kind of quieter than the rest of them. And, writing really stuck with me, even through high school and college. High school, we had an amazing writing program at our school, really taught the foundation of writing skills that I realized a lot of my friends at other high schools didn't have. I went to a high school called Bishop Eustace in New Jersey. And then in college, while I was getting my master's degree and doctorate of physical therapy, we still had a wonderful writing program. And I had a writing professor there who was still interested in me writing and pursuing it as a profession, but I was already on a course to become a physical therapist. So I kept it as a passion of mine. And I would keep going back to it because when I would write, I would really feel fulfilled. I feel like I worked. I would feel like it was my soul's passion. It would ignite me from the inside. And so I always kept it with me, even through when my husband was a resident. I started a blog to talk about our journey along his medical school and what that all entailed. And then when my daughter was born, my life kind of just changed. I really took a hard look at myself. I looked at, the women around me. I looked at who was on social media, who was prevalent. I was noticing the impact of social media on young women. And it really made me think long and hard about who she would be and who she would emulate. And so I really thought, I really want to inspire her. And so that's kind of where the book came about. If I'm teaching my children to pursue their own dreams, live your happy life, live what your soul's mission is, I had to do it for myself.
That's really how it's amazing how we're always led to where we're supposed to be when we just follow our heart and our instinct, our gut instinct.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, because when I was young, first I read a lot. We didn't have TV. As I told you before, I'm old. So I grew up on a very rural farm and we couldn't get TV reception. So my parents had a huge library and I read. And when I went to Vietnam, I started writing poetry about Vietnam and stuff like that. And when I went to college, my English professor told me that I should publish it. And I went home that night and burned it.
I did the same thing, Art. My English professor in college told me he wanted to publish some of my writing, and I hid from him, and I wouldn't go to the meeting. I didn't have the courage yet.
Yeah, it wasn't my time either. So, but anyway, it always amazes me that when we follow our instincts, how it just brings us to where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, I completely agree. Today, we did our first television interview And I didn't realize that my message is about kindness and being kind to ourselves and being, kind to others. And I didn't realize today was World Kindness Day.
Yeah, it is.
So funny, I agree with you, the timing of life and life leading you exactly where you should be.
Yeah, it's just when we follow the path and not try to force it or pull it in our direction, it kind of just really unfolds the way it's supposed to be. I lost my wife in 2006 to ovarian cancer. And that was my motivating factor for starting to write again. And I ended up writing a book called Expectation Therapy. And it's about using your expectations. And this is something that we have in common because I think that we need to teach children how to expect. Because when we do, their life will unfold. It's how everything unfolded for me. And I've gotten through every single event in my life through just expecting the best and knowing how to manage my expectations and not living to the expectations of others, but living to my core expectations that are in me. And I think that that's what you're trying to do. Can you tell us about your book? And well, let's start by telling about your daughter, how that all affected it. I think that'd be a good place to start.
While I was having this internal dialogue, with myself, I had this little girl who was running around my house in her brother's hockey equipment, and she would put a cape on and she would say, "Mom, I'm a superhero. Look at me. I'm so strong and powerful." And she would pose. And so all of the illustrations of the book are actually drawn from real pictures of Isla. And she would wear superhero clothing. And she would, when someone would say, "Isla, you look so pretty," she would say, "I'm not pretty. I'm cool. I'm strong." And I remember for like a month, she was wearing her brother's hockey equipment around the house. And she posed in front of me and said, "I'm a super strong superhero." And I laughed and I took a picture of it. And I thought to myself, my gosh, she looks so beautiful. And then I caught myself because I'm like, well, that's odd. She's wearing hockey equipment. How could she look beautiful? And then she sat next to me and she was petting her stuffed animals. She used to love her stuffed animal cats. And she was being mothering at the same time. So I thought to myself, she's really showing me who she is from the inside. That she's showing me what I think of what's beautiful about her is her inner beauty. She's showing me that she's strong, that she wants to be powerful, that she's loving and kind and nurturing at the same time. And so it really, that moment just changed my life. I just thought, why as women think that that's like a juxtaposition? Why are strength and beauty and kindness and women deemed to be opposing forces? We can be all of that at once. And, she wanted me to see that she was strong and powerful, and she didn't want to be considered just beautiful and nice and sweet, so she really inspired me. So I thought, I really want to validate that. I really think that that's a strong message to send to our little girls. And at first it was just me kind of trying to process what she was showing me and how the poem, as a writer, people say, "How did you write this?" And I say, "I don't know. It just one day, 6 months later, the poem just came in and I quickly jotted it down." And that was like the birth of the book, that, she was my princess, but she was a different kind of princess, even though she didn't want to be called a princess. And I really thought, wow, this is really interesting that this is who she is, but I really want to inspire other little girls too, to know that what I think that is beautiful about you are all the amazing qualities that make you, you, the things that you love to do, the people that you love to be with, the kind of person that you are, how somebody feels when you leave their presence. I think that's beautiful. I think if I could take the word beauty and kind of redefine it and not make it to be this singular way to objectify someone's physical traits, I would redefine it as a culmination of all the things in life that make someone wonderful. And I think that little girls, especially this day and age, with all the visuals of social media and the trends and everyone kind of jumping on the bandwagon of what's cool and what's beautiful, I really want them to know that your self-worth comes from within.
Yeah, and that's why I teach expectations, because once they have a solid foundation of what their expectations are, what their core expectations are, and they don't live to the expectations of others, they become strong because they're not followers. They really become leaders. So one of the components that I really think is important for young people in general is just to figure out what their core expectations are and then really learn how to manage them and move through, because it's tremendous.
I love that. I think we're both on the same path with that. I think that as women, sometimes we're just always inundated with so much information about who we should be that I think we should be told a little bit more that exactly who we are is enough. You know, you're beautiful, you are kind, you are wonderful, just the way you are. And so to have, like you say, you know, your core expectations, I believe that they're their core beliefs, you know, and with children, I say these are your superhero powers. These are the things that make you quintessential, unencumbered, you know, you. And that's beautiful. Just trying to be your authentic self and not trying to be a version of what you think is wonderful or a version of what, you know, sometimes as parents, we put expectations on our children as well. And maybe subconsciously and, you know, unintentionally, but just based on our own experiences in childhood and or what we think would be best for our children. And so I kind of realized that with my daughter, you know, I had to step back a little bit and let her show me who she really was. And I just had to help her how to navigate that road in a safe way, in a positive way.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about expectations is that there's a fine line between having self-expectations and then living to the expectations of others, because we have expectations that are put on us by society. There's laws and rules and regulations that we have to follow, and kids need to understand that they have to follow those, that they can't live without expectation. And so often today we're told, don't have expectations. And that is really the worst thing. It's really what people should be saying to their children is, let's learn how to manage your expectations, because as we all know, life happens and we don't have control of it. I mean, unfortunately, children lose parents and parents lose children, and there's all kinds of different scenarios, and we need to learn how to maneuver through those. How has this, writing this book with Isla, what is your relationship with her like? How's the growth going in that?
She's really enjoying all of it. It's really nice to kind of sit back and watch her see how this message really resonates with a lot of people and where exactly this has taken us. And I think the best thing she gets to see me showing her that you can live your dream and anything is possible. And she gets to be right there alongside of me and witness that. And so, you know, we're creating so many wonderful memories together by doing this. And she is so thrilled. And my sons are even thrilled too. You know, it's really interesting for them to see, you know, we're the only two girls in the family. So for them to see the women in the family kind of doing something really wonderful and standing out.
The need to have closure in any given situation is sheer human nature. And when it comes to romantic relationships, this desire skyrockets. Has your previously failed relationship left you in immense pain? It's not uncommon for people to shy away from a new relationship after their first one fails miserably. The fear of the unknown makes them hide in a shell to prevent any future heartbreak. Relatable? Despite wanting to love and be loved, you can't take the plunge if your mind and heart are still locked somewhere in the past. Maybe you aren't aware of the power of releasing the past, or perhaps you don't know how to do it. Art Costello in his online course teaches the art of moving on from bad places to happier, more stable ones. This course can change your life for good, helping you beat all kinds of negativity on the road to eternal bliss. Sign up now before the gloominess gets the better of you at expectationacademy.com.
Well, I think that that's one of the benefits that arises out of all this new growth of women coming out of their traditional roles as mothers and breadwinners now. I mean, you're coming out and it's really showing not only your daughter, but it's showing your son and your husband what your strengths are, you know. So, you know, you're laughing. I can only imagine.
Spoken like a man who was married for a long time.
Well,
You can tell my laugh.
Oh yeah, I'm very intuitive. So
Yeah, it's been really neat to see because people say, well, you're writing about a girl and you're a mom of boys, so how does this affect their relationship? And I say, my message is about girls, and it's definitely about empowering girls to find their own voice, and children in general just to find their own voice and their own happiness. But I'm teaching my sons that you can be in a relationship with someone who, to validate and empower the woman who walks alongside of you and look at what you can do. And I truly believe that my daughter feels strong and powerful because she has brothers, because they do validate and empower her, and they think she's wonderful. So not only look at what can happen when women inspire women, but look at what can happen when men inspire women as well.
yeah, I think there's a trend in the country right now where women, particularly on the internet, you look at all the businesses that are on the internet that are run by women and owned by women who are, I can name names of women who are literally making millions of dollars on the internet. It's much harder for men. Believe me, it is much harder for men because women tend to trust other women more than they do men. Even though I have a message that I believe every woman should be teaching their children, the women are probably more receptive, and men are less receptive because they don't want anybody telling them how to do anything. It's just true. It's just true. I have 3 friends who all have businesses that are geared to empowering men, and they voice to me all the time the struggles that they have talking to men, to getting men to open up and be authentic. They all want to play the macho man, and they want to be in control, and they don't like to relinquish control. So it's interesting how that whole scenario works out. But I did want to tell you, I'm going to give you a name of a young lady that I interviewed last week.
Okay.
And she has a podcast called Superhero Kids.
Oh.
She has been podcasting. She's 3.5. She's 9 years old. And she has 1 million subscribers to her podcast, over 1 million. Her name's Neva Rekpla. I've been so impressed with her. I met her in person in San Diego and just fell in love with her. She's just powerful, insightful 9-year-old that asks questions and answers questions so maturely that it really is astonishing sometimes. But I think you guys would really be a good fit. Yeah, and she's open to it, so she's sweet. So
look at how empowering that is, that when you're being your authentic self, even at the age of 9, because I've been asked, how do you define authenticity at any age? And I don't look at life as, I think if we talk about age, we limit ourselves because that's a definite number in which people have a tendency to think, men and women, that if you haven't achieved your dreams by a certain age in your life, that, you're a failure. And my grandfather would always talk to me in life in regards to time. And I think if you think of life and achieving your dreams in this mindset of like, well, I still have time, or I have time throughout my day, or how do I want to spend my time? You're kind of not limited by how old you are. The only limit in that is yourself. And if you truly want to step into the path of living out your dream.
Has anyone ever inspired you to discover a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled you? It is a magical experience, isn't it? Inspiration is indeed very powerful, yet it's often undermined. It can lift you from the ground to the sky in no time. Have you ever thought about returning the favor by inspiring the people around you? If you don't think you have it in you, we have good news for you. Art Costello's online course has everything you need to learn to supercharge yourself and shape your character into a powerful personality. Get ready to discover your strengths and unleash the creativity within. Don't believe it? Check it out yourself by signing up for this life-changing course at expectationacademy.com. That's expectationacademy.com.
It's so true, because when I was 63 and I lost my wife, it was 11 years ago. Let's see, I'm 72 now, so.
Young.
Well, it's really about perspective, because we're almost taught when you turn 55, 60, that we're supposed to go to the rocking chair and sit on the porch and watch the cows walk through the pasture, or the boats go by wherever you live, whatever. Some guys watch girls go by, but God bless them. But anyway, well, those are the guys that live in Newport Beach.
Okay.
So anyway, we have this idea implanted in us that we're supposed to be retired at 65 and not do anything. And we lose so much productivity from people that really could be teaching values and all these other skills that they've learned throughout their life, but they go into retirement and they just sit and watch the cartoons and the game shows and all that stuff. And it's sad,
Yeah, I mean, there's a quality of life there that's being lost, and on both ends, there's wisdom and experience that can be shared and imparted. That was one of the things I loved. I was very close with my grandparents, and I lost my grandfather 5 years ago. And I remember just our conversation. And I remember just even sometimes when I would feel like he was rambling on, and I would say, oh my gosh. But, I had the frame of mind to be like, you sit down and listen. These are moments you're never going to be able to get back again. And he's sharing his experience with you. And I felt a little more prepared, because he would say, oh, listen to me. I've lived life. Let me tell you how it is. And he was right about everything he spoke. I always felt a little more prepared after a conversation.
Yeah, I think grandparents can have a huge impact on their grandchildren.
Yeah.
Because I think we kind of I wasn't blessed. I'd met my mom's dad one time as a child, and all my other grandparents had passed already when I was little. So, I didn't have that. And actually, I didn't have parents that that instilled any kind of direction or expectations on me. And that's how I came to have to figure it out all on my own, because I was pretty much abandoned at 9 and had to figure out life on my own. So, but let's talk about communication between you and your daughter.
What do you want to know? It's a very strong bond, that mother-daughter bond. And it was right from the beginning, my relationship with her. We were more like best friends. We were kind of in this together, this womanhood, very different from my boys. I would laugh and say, oh, my girlfriend's with me, because she follows me around the house. And now she walks around with a pen and a paper, because she's a writer now. And so it was funny that she inspired me to live my dream, and I'm inspiring her. I don't know, to be like me or to be like a writer, but maybe she is a writer, and maybe this is just her mimicking me right now.
Maybe she'll be a writer just like her mother.
I hope so. I would love that. We could go into business together. But it's a relationship that I'm so excited to go on this journey with her, and to see how I evolve as a mother. And, I have, I guess, expectations on myself to live up to this idea of what she thinks I am, and to be the best role model for her, a positive role model, and someone she can come to, and someone she can rely on when she does doubt herself. Because, with children, they are going to experience that in the journey along life, where they're not sure of what they're doing, and who better to go to than your mom to help you stay on track? Because I know I still rely on my mom for that.
And that's whether it's a daughter or a son, it's the same thing. Our moms are just people who we like to be able to rely on them and emulate. Even boys emulate some of the traits that their mothers have passed down. I don't know.
My parents love to do a lot of things with me too. They love to cook with me. They're always amazed when I know that they're not telling the truth, or when I can kind of finish their sentence for them. And how did you know that? They say, and I'm like, well, God gives moms special gifts to kind of just know these things. So
he actually gives them to men too, but men choose not to act that way, because it doesn't fit the role model. And see, that's what I'm talking about. men not living to their authentic selves, but who they think that their sons and daughters think they should be, and who their wives think they should be.
Yeah.
So, so it's always an interesting dynamic that is in relationships, but communication is always the key. When you communicate with your children and you're honest and you're authentic and you do hold them to be authentic and honest, you can't go wrong, really. It's a great model to have your kids grow.
I believe so. And I think my children are really good at picking up on maybe when I'm not completely being transparent with them as well. And, what I try to teach my kids is that I've never been wrong about anything when I went with my gut. And so the only time I've ever been wrong is when I listened to someone else or I didn't go with my gut. And so I think, to help them tap internally, and because women, I think, they're a little bit more emotional. We tend to rely on that side of things and go with our emotions. And boys tend to be a little bit more thinkers and straightforward and problem solvers. And so, to help young men kind of navigate that way too is.
Yeah, I work with men and boys and women becoming more emotionally intelligent because I've done a lot of work with emotional intelligence. And if you can identify your emotions and know how to respond to them, you're way ahead of the game in this world. It's amazing what it will do. So that's part of my program, is that I teach emotional intelligence.
To young men, to little boys.
To everybody. I teach it to everybody. Yeah.
I think the world can use a little bit more emotional intelligence.
Actually, I teach it even when I'm not teaching. So can we talk about the 3 ways to build strength with mother-daughter bond?
Yeah, of course. I think the first thing to do is to listen. I think our children are really good at communicating with us their wants and their needs, probably more so than our adult relationships. And I think a lot of times it's up to us really quieting down our own voices in our head and hearing what they want. I have my sons. My one son is really, really good at soccer, but his heart's not into it. And it's a struggle for him to go. And I finally just said, okay, if this is not what you want to do, if your heart's not into it, if it's not making your soul sing, I don't want to put this expectation on you to have to go and play because you excel at that. And the next step, I would say, is to engage, which is following through with what they're telling us and actually allowing the decisions that they want to make. Obviously they have to be safe decisions and good choices and helping them navigate through that, but to help them engage in making those decisions so that when they grow up, we are raising confident adults who feel confident enough to make their own decisions and knowing that they have the support of their parents behind them and helping them show the way to make those decisions. And then the third thing I would say is to inspire. Once you are helping them engage in their soul igniting things that they love to do, whatever's making them happy. I don't believe that the gifts that we have, as you call them, expectations or, achieving your expectations, I think I call them superhero powers. And so our superhero powers, and this is what I say to kids, our superheroes share their powers, right? And so our gifts aren't meant for us to just hold on to. Our gifts are meant to share with the world. And so I think that they not only have to find out ways to, figure out what their superhero powers are, but they now have a duty to inspire those once they figure out what they want to do. Because I think it's truly an inspiration when you see someone living their dream, no matter what age they are.
How can a young person define what their superpowers are?
I say it's the things that make your soul sing. It is the things that resonate with you deep within, or the things that bring joy and happiness to your face. Whatever you love to do. It can be being a good friend. It could be being a good listener. It could be your superpower could be being the quiet kid in class, because a lot of times other children will rely on that to help calm everyone down. You could be a loud, excited kid in class. And, if you're a little quieter or maybe you're not having a bad day, you can always rely on, Johnny being excited and loud all the time to pump you up. That's a superpower. You could be really good at baseball. You could love to play the piano. You could anything, anything that makes you you, anything that makes you authentically you, I think is your superpower.
Don't know which direction you want your life to take? Are you sinking deep down into the pit of uncertainties day by day? So, what's the secret to leading a happy, satisfied life? It's taking matters into your own hands. But what if the matters in question are a total blur? Art Costello's Expectation Academy course aims to tell you exactly how you can get some clarity in your life. This course can be your savior on your journey to reinventing yourself. While you certainly can't plan your whole future ahead, you can definitely control twists and turns your life takes. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for this course now at expectationacademy.com. Get a chance to broaden your horizons and add meaning to your life. That's expectationacademy.com.
I loved baseball when I was a little guy. I mean, baseball was my life. I mean, I played in the minor leagues professionally, and I played in the Marine Corps when I was in the Marines and in college and all that. I mean, I could play baseball from sundown till sunup. I mean, I just love baseball, and I love playing it. And what's funny is I can't watch it on TV.
No. Does it make you want to play? Because I know that I recently watched Michael Jordan interview, and he won't pick up a basketball because it'll make him want to play.
That's probably it.
Probably it.
That I know it's not going to happen now. I was a catcher.
Oh, my son plays baseball. He's a catcher.
So just getting on my knees now is it's getting back up. It's not getting down. There you go. I'm trying to think of where we should go now.
That's really what I think. And I think if by using the words superhero and superpower, it really gets children excited to find out what that passion is, regardless of what it is. And I think sometimes children feel insecure about themselves, and they really don't know where to go with it. Is it okay if I'm the quiet one? Is it okay if I'm the loud one? Is it okay if I'm the energetic one? Yeah, that's you being you. That's you being your beautiful, authentic self.
And I think that that's really important, to be your authentic self, whether you're a child or you're an adult or you're a senior citizen. If you're not going to be authentic, then what is there? I mean, you're not feeding your soul when you're not authentic and you don't have direction. I mean, there's all kinds of things that being authentic, it's very self-fulfilling. I talk a lot about wants, needs, and desires. And I know you talked about wants and needs, but I believe that we also have desires. They're like anything else in life. They come and they go and all that. I mean, I desired as a young child, and desired to be a pro baseball player. Mm. And even after I went to Vietnam and came back and played in the Marine Corps and then played 4 years in college, I still went and pursued it, baseball, because it was this desire in me. And when we have a desire, when we desire something, we don't give up on it. It's greater than a want or a need. Wants are things that we could say, okay, I want a new car, or I want a beautiful blonde girlfriend, or, I want this or I want that. And then there's things that we need: shelter, food, drink, all of those things. But desires go way, way deeper. I think there's something that is attached to our passion when we have desire.
Yeah, when I think of this in dealing with children and dealing with my children, wants and needs and desires are kind of still, it's hard to kind of tease that out. So I say to them, think of yourself as like a painting. So you're a blank canvas right now, and you can paint your picture any which way you want to. And in the book, I talk about, it's about Isla being all these different things. And I don't think that you truly know what you want to do or what you want to be as a kid. You can have all these desires. Like, baseball played a really strong point in your life and led you to so many things. And whether it's baseball throughout your life, or it's, one day you want to be a gymnast, and then the next day you want to be a hockey player, whatever that is, it's fine, because life is about being on this journey, and you don't necessarily have to be one thing all the time to define you. You can figure that out along the way.
I am living proof of it because I've done so many things in my life. And I tell this to people all the time. I've done everything in my life that I've ever wanted to do because I just go do it. Now, my late wife, it drove her crazy because she was somebody who wanted security and everything had to be set. Everything had its place. Everything had to be set. And I'm off the cuff.
Like routine.
Yeah. And me, I could see a boat sailing to China and I'd say, hey, I'd like to ride on that. And I get on it. But it's always worked out for me. It's never not worked out because I've always had the expectation of no matter what I do, I do it to the best of my ability. And God has just given me great physical and mental abilities to be able to go and do all the things that I've had. I've done things that you wouldn't even believe. I've worked in the entertainment business. It's all because I just go do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's another value that, I want to instill at a young age and build a foundation of courage. Sometimes we're afraid to take that step, and, having someone like you voice that, and a lot of people see the big picture of it and they're afraid of the big picture of what that may be for them. So I say, just breathe a little into the yes, just take those few steps into the yes and learn how to say no to the no, and I think people are just afraid to do that. And so I want to kind of take the fear out of it. I want people to kind of ease into it. It doesn't have to be this big thing all at once, but if you just gravitate towards what makes your soul sing, what sets your soul on fire, that's the life you should be living, because we're meant to inspire. We're meant to impart our gifts on other people, and we're not just meant to hold them in. So, and I think that's when you know what your mission is, when you can not only feel it in yourself, but that it's resonating with other people. I think we all want to feel that we're here for a greater purpose. And so part of that purpose is to share your experience with others.
Let's talk about something that we just covered lightly, fear.
Fear.
Yeah, the fear is what stops people from doing and becoming what they're supposed to be. And for me, I've always believed that it lies in our expectations, because we look at our expectations through two lenses. One is faith and the other is fear. Faith in belief that no matter what you do, anything becomes possible. Because I teach that anything and everything is possible when you believe it can be.
Yeah, I am living that right now.
But fear is what stops people. It would have stopped anybody from doing anything that they wanted to do if they whether you're going to be a pro football player or if you have fear of getting hurt or anything in sports, you're not going to perform to your fullest. You've got to go out with the expectation that everything's always going to be. And what I teach is when it doesn't, you're still able to pick up and move forward and become whatever you were meant truly to be. Right. I've talked to people who have been injured and become paralyzed in sporting accidents and stuff. And, they go, why was it me? Why was it me? Well, all I can tell you was that it was you, and it must have been meant to be you. Right. And there is something greater that you are to do. Don't stop because of fear. Keep going. Become everything that you were meant to be.
Yeah.
And you working in physical therapy should probably know that better than anybody, really, because
being a physical therapist, I truly love people, and I truly feel that, helping people in a capacity that a physical therapist can is a gift. And, to be able to change someone's life and give them back quality of life or have them do things that they never thought that they would do. You genuinely get to see life through a different scope. And I would leave work some days just feeling grateful that I had that opportunity. Sometimes it felt more like a blessing for me to be able to do that for someone and actually see my patients excel. There was such a sense of fulfillment with that, and literally helping people get back up. And I agree with you. A lot of people don't understand why injuries happen. A lot of times they're fluke accidents, or sometimes they are the result of playing a sport. I've had athletes too that, have had cancer or, just something they weren't even expecting happen to them and shorten their career. And now they teach it. And so just like you were saying, they didn't understand why they thought I was going to be this amazing, professional on their way to becoming a professional athlete, and their lives were kind of just stopped, and now they're amazing coaches. And so I agree with you that sometimes our desires push us to something and we think we're going to be something, but it really leads us in a different direction. And so understanding that is really important.
Yeah, I think it's what got me through Vietnam. I was a Marine in Vietnam, and you never knew what was, in Vietnam. I call it learning to expect the unexpected, and I think it just gave me a whole different perspective on life and how to live it. I think that's truly where the Marine Corps was great for me, because it taught me in the beginning to believe in myself, physically, mentally, and all of those. And then going to Vietnam, it taught me compassion for others, and that life is it is this, you never know what can happen. Absolutely. And, one of the things I always dealt with is we could be walking along a rice paddy and somebody would go down behind me or somebody would go down next to me. And, you get survivor's guilt, with why was I spared?
Right.
The only answer I could ever figure out and have to make any sense was there was a plan. I mean, there's a plan that for me I was to do what I'm supposed to do. And I just followed it, and that's why I do what I do. It's because I'm following whatever is meant to be for me.
I agree with you. And I think people that have an insight into how your life and how your life isn't, guaranteed to anybody.
Nope.
And so when people say, I haven't achieved anything by a certain age, I don't think of it as age. I think of it as time. We all have a limited time here. We don't know what our time is for each and every one of us. And so I am an advocate for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and I see it's a life-shortening illness. And I have such a different perspective on life, just like you do with Vietnam, that you appreciate it and you want to take the experiences out of it. And as opposed to people just kind of running through it and trying to, run at life. I think life is something that should be experienced and not trying to, like you said in the beginning of our conversation, people try to grab a hold of life and make it what they want as opposed to being on the journey of it.
Yeah. Well said. That is really, really well said. Because when you start to try to control things and control people around you, I mean, think about relationships and marriages. One of the things that I always believe, one of the biggest problems with marriages is when spouses try to control the other spouse, or they married with the idea that they could change them.
Right.
You can't change anybody. They have to change themselves. And I mean, it's a journey, so why not make the best of the journey and not try to change people and not try to force your ideas and thoughts? I let my wife be who she wanted to be,
I think that's probably the greatest gift that you could have given her, just seeing her for who she was and validating that.
Yep. So it was good, 38 years.
What was her name?
Her name was Vicky.
Vicky.
Yeah. And now I'm remarried to Beverly. So, which is really a blessing.
Oh.
She's 10 years younger than me. So we just have a blast. We could do another whole show on that relationship. We're getting towards the end of our time and all that. And I wanted you to be able to tell the listeners about anything that you want to tell us. I want you to tell us where they can get a hold of you, where they can follow you, where they can get your book, all those kind of things.
Thank you so much. Well, you can find me on my website, jainathatch.com. I'm also on Facebook at Jaina Thatch at My Superhero Mind. I'm on Instagram at Jaina Thatch. I'm just keeping it really simple. And Twitter, Thatch Jaina. So that's kind of backwards. You can also find My Superhero Mind on Amazon.com. And the hardcover is on barnesandnoble.com. And if you're in Tampa, I'm around. I'm doing lots of events in Tampa. I'm doing a book signing. They might miss this now, but I'm going to be at Barnes & Noble this week. And I'm doing 2 book signings with my daughter's school. And you'll get to see me locally on Tampa TV this week as well. So, it's been amazing to kind of share this message of love and kindness. And for it to be out there this week is amazing.
We're blessed to have you out here.
Thank you.
So any parting words you want to leave with us?
I just want to say, I talk about time a lot and I talk about filling ourselves. So I just want to say thank you to you for sharing your time with me today. And, I really appreciated our conversation and I learned a lot from you as well. So thank you for sharing your gift with me.
Well, thank you. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And I'm going to have you back another time.
Wonderful.
Because we have a connection. I feel it.
I agree.
So with that being said, everything Jaina has put on here will be in the show notes and all of that and all the information of where you can get a hold of her. And everybody knows in Shower Epiphanies land where they can get a hold of me at expectationtherapy.com. And I'm going to let Heather White take us out of here. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Thank you, Jaina, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the show. Drop us your comments and questions with what you want answered on the show. You can subscribe on iTunes and Binge Network. You can also get more information on the website, expectationtherapy.com.